improper pruning. You get big ugly cuts, pruning scars that take years to heal. Now, what if I told you that there is a 5 or 10 minute job in spring that you can do to avoid those scars? Now, I don't want to make this more difficult than it is, because it is a very simple technique and anybody can do it. And sometimes people seem to make it very complex. What do we need to do for my bonsai in early spring to make sure I don't get big scars later in summer? But it really is very easy. Hey, this is Jelle, growing bonsai, and today I have a very short video. And in particular Japanese maple, but also for other species like elms, this is very relevant. I think we all can agree that a nice Japanese maple bonsai looks best without major scars. You can get major scars, of course, from wire that stays on too long. That's not the case here yet, but also from improper pruning. You get big ugly cuts, pruning scars that take years to heal. Now, what if I told you that there is a 5 or 10 minute job in spring that you can do to avoid those scars? Let me pull out a tree and show you exactly what I mean with pruning in the wrong way in spring. Now, this is my Saiken Japanese maple. It has been featured in a few of my videos, and if you have subscribed you might have seen it already. I'll put a link at the end of this video to a video where I was air layering and making the first design choices. Now, that is a few years ago already, but I have made some mistakes that really puts this tree back. Of course, this branch, this has died off last year. I made some error in pruning. I pulled it down and it broke. But this is not the branch that I'm talking about. I'm actually talking about this branch. Here I also made a mistake, and let me zoom in and show you the mistake that I made. But what you can see here is I cut this branch off last year. It was getting really long and strong, and I decided to prune it to trigger back buds and to reduce the thickening. Well, the back buds worked, the back buds worked really well. 1 branch, 2 branch, 3 branch, 4 branches in one spot. And basically the way to fix this is cutting with the concave cutter this stub off. Then looking which branches do I want to keep. I think I like this one going to the back and this one coming to the side. So that would mean that I have to remove these branches here. Don't need those. Then of course this is really ugly and I need to smoothen this out. Let's see whether I can do this without breaking. Yeah, and I need to smooth this out. And then with a knife, of course, I have to really make this a nice smooth transition into these little side branches. Now I just have to hope that with a bit of cut paste, this heals over into a nice smooth transition. Doesn't die off and also doesn't create a very big lump. Not ideal, right? So how do we avoid it? Very easy. It's early spring. This Japanese maple is starting to push. And I like to use my tweezers and I go and I look at the tree. And of course you all know, right? A Japanese maple doesn't bifurcate, but it trifurcates. So basically, once it starts growing in spring, and let me get a nice normal spring push. It's just very simple. Remove every little bit of green in a place where you don't want a branch. Simple. You get extension from 2 buds, that's normal. 2 buds, that's normal. But in practice what you get is 1 bud to the side, 1 bud to the side, and 1 bud that continues. And that's fine in spring, but it doesn't just do it in spring, it also does it later in the year. So at every node you might get 1, 2 and sometimes even 3 side buds. Now I only need 1 side branch at every little place. So we can remove 1. In this case this branch extension is not needed either, and I can now remove the center one. By doing this I've now created a bifurcation, which is actually what we want. So I go through the tree and I look for places just like this branch here. Now this branch here, it has 1, 2, 3 buds. Well, 1 branch and 2 side branches. Now I only need 2. This one goes to the outside, this is pointed towards the other branch, so I'm removing this one. And here I do the same thing. I could of course also just cut the middle one so I get more movement. But in this case this is fine, because later it will be wired like this. Here, 1, 2, 3, that's fine. There's one side branch with 2 side branches, there's the bifabrication again. And here it is all fine, this is all fine. Now if I do this in early spring, right now I can remove these and they don't leave a big scar. These spots, they will just dry out and disappear over the course of the season. So this is the moment to remove all these excess buds that grow from places where you don't actually want a side branch. Now elms have alternating leaves, so you don't get these 3-way splits. But what you do get on a healthy elm is very visible here. You get lots and lots of growth sitting on the trunk. So if you look here at the elbow of this branch that I want to keep, there's a lot of young growth which also gently needs to be removed, with the intent to remove the whole base and therefore not have too many buds returning. Naturally, later in the year, when the tree is more closed, these little branches don't stand a chance. But in early spring they do. And now is the time to clean up your tree, so you don't have as much to prune later in the year. Now mind you, this is a good problem to have. This is a sign of a tree that is very, very healthy. If you don't get any budding on the trunks of your elms, you might need to check whether your tree is fully healthy. Because all my elms do this all the time. But this is a 5-minute job per tree. Once you've done that, all set again for the season. Now this of course is a much smaller tree, but here the problem is exactly the same. That I have little buds forming, for instance here, at the base of the bifabrication that I don't want it to grow. Here we see again one of those 3-way splits. There's another one of those side branches in a fork. Another one here in the back. You see one there, little bud. So these little buds you can also just rub off with your fingers, right? So it literally is no more difficult than just going through the whole tree, deciding this is a little side branch I don't want. If the branches are a little bit thicker, you can also just use your scissors, cut it off. It's a nice little calm job to do, especially when outside the weather is not all that nice. Just bring your tree in. You can hear this on the background. It's pouring with rain outside, to be honest. It really is not pleasant. But here in the shed it's nice. So I'm just going through all my trees at this point in time and I'm removing all these oddly growing side branches, thinning out the canopy straight away, and with that reducing the work that I have later in the season, defoliating and cleaning out. Now here we have a very nice example of one of those 3-way splits that I mentioned before. So there's a branch here going up, there's a branch there going down, and there's this middle growth. Now I can decide which ones do I want to keep, and every time you remove something, think about what do I want to keep and what do I not want to keep. And in this case it is the middle branch, the continuation that I'm taking out, so that I create natural movement here in this area. Now and as you go through it, this is of course a place where I would like to have a side branch, but I want it on this side of the trunk. This is going towards inside of this little forest, but also it is on the inside of a curve. So this gets removed, and then the second one also here. It's really sad, but these just can't stay. Now I have a few Japanese maple like this one that are a little bit taller and slender, and I don't actually want them to grow all that fat. This is also the moment where I then remove all the growing tips from the middle of the 2 leaves emerging. So I just open up the bud, I find a little sprout in between, and I remove that. Next to that I also go into the tree with my scissors, and I'm like, well, this top is actually getting quite heavy compared to the rest. So I'm now already at this stage pruning this tree back. That will mean that these branches don't extend all that much. It also means that these young branches, they don't get all that thick. And actually in a few weeks time, when all the leaves are open, I will probably remove half of the leaves again to make sure the canopy stays nice and light. That avoids that I have to remove branches directly from the canopy. In fact, I've never removed any branches from this tree. It has always just been pruning. There's been a major cut made here once, but besides that, all the branches that were on originally are still on. Now mind you, this is a job that might have to be done for a few days in a row, because not all the middle growing tips are visible at the same time. So when this gets a little bit congested, I just take out some of these branches. And then later in the year I might just decide to wire some of them into position. And this way the crown gets a bit shorter. Now this is a very long internode, I'll have to leave that in place. And here you see that last year I didn't do a proper job cleaning it up. But that is nice, because now I can just remove this here completely. And I think it is good to realize that different trees have different ambitions. So this is very different from some of my other maples. And here I really want a very nice and open canopy afterwards. Just a few leaves that really accentuate the fact that this is a thin, slender tree. So this is why I keep this one very empty, very much in control, and I don't allow this to grow with some of my other Japanese maples. Right, I think this can go back into the garden now. And this is really just a 5, maybe 10-minute job on every single tree that you have. Go quickly through them, remove these little buds. If you do have a more refined tree, taking out this center growth can take a lot longer. That will take over a few days, but removing the buds early on saves you a lot of time in fall. If you haven't subscribed yet, maybe this is still the time to do it. If you haven't seen my video about air layering Japanese maple, that might be an interesting one to watch for you now. And otherwise, maybe take a look at my latest video right there. I'll see you next time. This was Jelle, growing bonsai with some critical spring work on the Japanese maple.